Since agriculture and climate change are closely related, economists, ecologists, and agriculturalists are extremely concerned about climate change. It is impossible to ignore the impact of contemporary agriculture on climate change, even while farmers must adapt their operations due to weather variations. As a result, the relationship between modern agriculture and climate change warrants careful consideration because the influence is not positive. So, today let's look at one of the most asked questions: how the effect of climate change can reduce the agricultural practices. Let's dig right into it. The US economy's agriculture industry is significant. Each year, the United States economy receives more than $300 billion from the production of crops, cattle, and seafood. The agricultural and food sectors contribute more than $750 billion to the gross domestic product when food service and other industries associated with agriculture are taken into account. The climate has a significant influence on both agriculture and fishing. In some regions, rising temperatures and carbon dioxide levels can improve crop yields. The availability of water, soil moisture, nutrition levels, and other factors must also be satisfied in order to reap these benefits. Food safety may be at risk because of changes in the frequency and severity of floods and droughts, which could present difficulties for ranchers and farmers. Overall, climate change may make it more difficult to farm crops in the same places and ways as before. Along with other changing elements that influence agricultural production, such as changes in farming practices and technology, the consequences of climate change must also be taken into account. Impacts on crops. The food supply in the USA and around the world depends on crops grown in the United States. Nearly 25% of all grains, including wheat, corn, and rice, sold on the international market are produced by American farms. Crop yields may be significantly impacted by changes in temperature, atmospheric carbon dioxide, and the frequency and severity of extreme weather. Depending on the crop's ideal temperature for growth and reproduction, an increase in temperature will have different effects on different crops. The types of crops that are traditionally cultivated there may benefit from warming in some areas, or farmers may be able to switch to crops that are now grown in warmer regions. Conversely, production will decrease if the higher temperature exceeds the crop's optimal temperature. Crop production might be impacted by higher CO2 levels. According to certain lab tests, increased carbon dioxide levels may promote plant growth. However, additional elements like ozone, water, and nutrient shortages and temperature changes may work against these potential yield increases. For instance, yield gains may be slowed down or stopped if a crop is exposed to temperature over their normal range, or if enough water and nutrients are not available. Increased carbon dioxide has been linked to lower protein and nitrogen levels in alfalfa and soybean plants, which leads to a decline in quality. The capacity of pasture and rangeland to support grazing cattle can be reduced by decreased grain and forage quality. Crop growth may be hampered by more extreme precipitation and temperature. Extreme weather conditions, particularly droughts and floods, can damage crops and lower harvests. For instance, in 2010 and 2012, high overnight temperatures had an impact on maize yields in the US Corn Belt, and in 2012, premature budding brought almost $220 million in losses for Michigan cherries because of the warm winter. In regions where drier soils are brought on by higher summer temperatures, managing drought could prove difficult. It may be possible in certain locations to increase irrigation, but in other locations, water supplies may be limited, leaving less water available for irrigation when more is required. Warmer, wetter, and higher carbon dioxide levels are favorable to the growth of many weeds, pests, and fungi. Currently, American farmers pay over $11 billion annually to combat weeds which compete with crops for nutrients, light, and water. With climate change, weeds and pests are likely to spread and expand their ranges. Farmers' crops that were not previously exposed to those species may now face new problems. Even though increased CO2 can promote plant development, it also lowers the nutritional content of the majority of food crops. Most plant species, including wheat, soybeans, and rice, have lower protein and crucial mineral concentrations due to the rising atmospheric carbon dioxide levels. Increasing CO2's direct impact on crop nutrition poses a possible risk to people's health. Due to growing insect pressures and declining pesticide performance, increased pesticide use also poses a concern to human health. International impacts. Global, regional, and local food security are all expected to be impacted by climate change. Food quality and access are also impacted by climate change, which can also affect food availability. For instance, decreasing agricultural output may be a result of expected temperature rises, modifications to precipitation patterns, modifications to extreme weather events, and decrease in water availability. Delivery of food can be delayed because of an increase in the frequency and severity of extreme weather events, and future forecasts predict an increase in the frequency of price spikes related to extreme occurrences. Temperature rises have been linked to contamination and deterioration. These impacts of climate change on agriculture and the food supply are probably similar to those observed in the United States. The effects of climate change on food security, however, might be amplified by other pressures like population expansion. In underdeveloped countries, adaptation options such as changing agricultural management, ranching methods, or irrigation systems are more limited than in the United States and other developed countries. Any climatic disruption of food distribution and delivery, whether domestically or internationally, may have a considerable effect on access to food as well as safety and quality. For instance, the American food delivery system routinely transports substantial amounts of grain by water. There are few, if any, alternative transportation routes in the event of a severe weather event that affects a river. One of the worst summer droughts the country has ever experienced occurred in the summer of 2012, and it had a significant negative impact on the Mississippi River watershed, a crucial transcontinental shipping route for Midwestern crops. Due to decreases in barge traffic, the amount of products transported, and the number of Americans employed in the tugboat sector, this drought led to substantial food and economic losses. The Mississippi River saw widespread flooding in the spring of 2013 as a direct effect of the 2012 drought, which also caused delays in barge traffic and food delivery. These changes in transportation make it harder for farmers to sell their grains to other markets, which has an impact on food prices all across the world. The United States is concerned about the effects on the world food supply because food shortages can result in humanitarian disasters and problems with national security. They may also push up the cost of household food. Ways farmers can fight climate change. Way number 1. Efficient irrigation management. Water conservation is crucial for any farm, especially during times of drought. However, because groundwater pumping consumes the majority of energy on farms, it is estimated that agricultural irrigation in California consumes enough electricity to power 1.5 billion homes. Irrigation efficiency is also important to reducing fossil fuel consumption and greenhouse gas emissions. Farmers that are water and climate conscious can save water and minimize energy use by employing drip irrigation, cover crops, dry farming, and other techniques. Way number 2. Renewable energy. Farms can lower their carbon footprint by increasing energy efficiency and transitioning away from fossil fuels. This can involve using renewable energy on farm, such as solar panels and wind turbines, reducing the usage of petroleum-based fertilizers and pesticides, and decreasing reliance on fossil fuel inputs for crop farming, storage, and transportation. Way number 3. Organic practices. Since the mid-20th century, agricultural modernization has resulted in extensive reliance on petroleum-based insecticides, herbicides, and fertilizers in conventional farming. Most synthetic inputs are prohibited in organic farming, resulting in lower greenhouse gas emissions as well as healthier land, water, and food. Furthermore, Organic and sustainable farming techniques provide farmers with extra benefits such as greater soil health and fertility, which leads to further climate-friendly benefits. So, what are your thoughts about this? Please let us know in the comment section down below. That's all there is to it. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment on this video if you enjoy it. I'll see you in the next video. Till then, take care and goodbye.